Welcome to the Your Take podcast. Welcome on in to episode 6 of the Your Take podcast. I'm Ben Stern. We have two fantastic guests and some great debates and discussions coming at you today. We're talking Ben Simmons versus Jayson Tatum, the next great Celtics-Sixers player rivalry following the footsteps of Wilt and Bill Russell, Larry Bird and Dr. J. We'll also be talking Celtics-Sixers playoff previews and what we expect as we head into Orlando. Let's go meet our guests, starting with Zach from @Celtics fan page.
Hi, I'm Zach. I run the Celtics fan page since 2017, and I'll be a journalism major at Quinnipiac University next year.
And now representing @Sixers.mania, let's meet Will.
Sixers Mania was created in 2015. I'm here to discuss the Simmons and Tatum. And then also, me personally, I am a broadcast journalism major at Penn State.
All right, so let's jump right in. Jayson Tatum, Ben Simmons, two fantastic players, two rising stars in the league. I'm going to pass it off to Zach. Start us off. Who do you have between Jayson Tatum and Ben Simmons? Which one is your guy? Who would you want in the short term and moving forward in the long term?
Short term and long term, I'll both take Jayson Tatum just because of how well he can score the basketball and also just the way he spaces the defense. He can do it both ways. And I think the only significant advantage that Ben Simmons has over Jayson Tatum is his passing.
Now I'm going to pass it off to Will. Tell me, who do you got? I know you're a big Sixers fan, but short term, long term, who do you got, Simmons or Tatum?
I'm actually taking Jayson Tatum. No, I'm just kidding. I'm taking Ben Simmons. I think he's a much better defender. You said the only advantage you think he has is passing, which he definitely has a significant advantage. I'm not saying Tatum is a bad defender by any means, but I just think Ben is arguably the best defender, one of the best wing defenders in the league. I think he brings it more consistently than Kawhi does. Kawhi's more talented, but Ben Simmons day in, day out brings it every time.
I don't know if I necessarily agree that Simmons is a better defender than Kawhi, but I will say that I do think I'm
not saying he's better. I'm just saying he's consistently brings it, and I think he's one of the best in the league.
For me personally, I think Simmons is better defender. I think that he's a better passer. And I think that he's much better on inside scoring. You take a look at how Simmons and Tatum do around the basket. Simmons shoots 68% within 4 feet, which put him in the 93rd percentile, compared to Jayson Tatum, whose inside game is he's only shooting 59%, putting him in the 31st percentile. But I think when you look at who I'd take short-term versus long-term, I think this upcoming season, if I had to pick someone going into Orlando, I would take Tatum, just really for the fact that his game translates from the regular season to the postseason so much better than Simmons, at least as we've seen so far. We saw Boston 2 years ago, Toronto last year, and even in practice, I know Sixers Mania has posted a couple things where Shake Milton's been playing point guard and Simmons has been playing power forward. And I think that the way that Tatum's game will translate from the regular season to the postseason, he's much harder to plan around and to game plan for. What do you guys think?
Jayson Tatum did average 12 points against the Bucks in the second round last year, shooting 36%, while Ben Simmons was shooting 60% for the entire playoff run. But that is besides the point. I do agree that it's a little bit easier to game plan for Ben Simmons. I think the issue for the Sixers has just been the surrounding talent. They have had talent, but they don't fit together. It's not necessarily Ben and Joel. I actually think they do fit together, but Tobias, Jimmy didn't really fit as much as people think, even though they were known as playoff Jimmy. Really, he just pounded the ball and it took the ball out of Simmons' hands, which, maybe that's a coaching issue, maybe not. But anyway.
And like you said before, I think Ben Simmons' inability to shoot the basketball really hurts the Sixers' kind of offense. I think it messes up their spacing a lot. And I think it kind of, I don't know, it's not how people like to play basketball nowadays. It's more kind of like 1980s style basketball.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that if Simmons is going to, I think Simmons has a higher ceiling, but also a lower floor than Jayson Tatum. I think we see Tatum's skills now. He can score from mid range, from three, and inside. And I think that even though, like I said, Simmons is better defender, better passer, I think the difference between Simmons and Tatum in those areas is a lot closer than the difference between Tatum and Simmons when it comes to shooting the basketball. I will say that I think that if Simmons can take that next step, even if he's a 30% three-point shooter, kind of like what we've seen from Giannis the past 2 years, it'll just make him that much more versatile and make teams think twice about him actually shooting. And I think that Simmons' ability to create a shot, even of some kind, would just put him kind of above Jayson Tatum. But again, that's a big if and why I think that his floor is lower if he's unable to develop that shot.
Yeah, going off of that, I think if like you said, if he can develop a shot, he can definitely be like top 5, top 10 player in the league, no doubt.
I just think the whole creation, while I agree with that when he was the primary ball handler, we're seeing he's obviously being moved to power forward. Obvious more so, it just means he's going to be playing off ball more rather than on ball. I agree if he was the primary guy, he would need those shot creation skills, but I think the Sixers can be just fine as long as they have some guy with some sort of creation. I think Shake Milton could provide that. Maybe it's someone else, but I think in the short term, they just need a guy who can shoot and create, and then it will unlock Simmons more in that off-ball role. And even when he has the ball, he can still do some great things when he drives to the basket, when he sets up teammates, when he runs in transition. All of those things he can do better than Tatum, I would say, as well.
Yeah.
Those things. But we just need that other ball handler, which we might have in Shake Milton.
We'll see. I don't know if I have we've seen such a small sample size from Shake Milton. For me, it's really hard to put a ton of confidence in maybe like a 10-game sample size we saw before the season got postponed.
I agree, but everybody else I hated in that role. So Josh Richardson kind of just like walks back and forth with the ball and doesn't make decisions. Same with Tobias, and Al Horford's just miscast. So we needed something else in there.
Shake's the only guy that's really shown that yet.
Yeah.
But Jayson Tatum, I think that, I don't know, I'm not a big Brett Brown guy. I think that Brad Stevens does a fantastic job of putting Tatum and all the players on the Celtics in the best position to succeed. And you can't say the same for Brett Brown. Personally, I also have just not liked the Sixers have dropped so many videos over the past couple years of Simmons shooting in practice or like in off season. We've even seen it the past week or so from Sixers training camp in Orlando. And I just hate that they show, like, why are you showing a video of this guy putting all this pressure on him, and then when it gets to game time, he won't even attempt a three?
Okay. Well, I think this Orlando sample size has been way more in terms of there's just been more shooting, and their actual practice videos. In the past, they just said that Simmons sometimes shoots threes in practice, and there wasn't a ton of videos from the Sixers itself. Now it is coming from the Sixers, where before it was coming from Ben Simmons. So I think it might be a little difference that they're showing like, hey, here's him in practice. He's shooting threes, and like quick too. That was the one big thing I took away from those videos. But
I think the coolest thing we've seen from Jayson Tatum this year, and even actually the past 3 years, his usage rate and the attempts he's taken per game have continued to rise, but his efficiency has continued to stay the same. So he's been showing he's able to take on a bigger role and be just as good of a shooter as he was when he had a smaller role his rookie year in his second season.
And I feel like he played so well during the playoff run 2 years ago when Kyrie was out. And then the following year was kind of a disappointment. So people kind of forgot how good he was. And I think he's reminding a lot of people this year how good
his second half of the year, he there was just one game where all of a sudden it seemed that things just like clicked for him, and he's been a completely different player since then. His 3-point shooting has gone up a ton. That's kind of been the biggest difference and the biggest reason for his sudden progression, I think.
Yeah, kind of like February towards the All-Star break, he was playing like a top 5, top 3 player in the league. I think he averaged like 35 points a game, and like over like six or 7 games. It was ridiculous.
What do you guys think? We're talking a lot about just what we think for this upcoming season. What do you guys think Simmons and Tatum's like potential in the next 5 years would be?
For Simmons, I do think he does have a Giannis-like potential. I don't think he'll ever be quite as good as Giannis. Giannis is just a freak athlete, freak size, everything. He's the Greek freak for a reason. I think he can be a better passer than Giannis is, though, and I do think, if they surround him with the right talent, because you look at the Bucks lineup, they surround Giannis with players that fit 100% perfectly. I do actually think as mentioned before, I think Joel can fit with Simmons. I think people don't think he's as good of a shooter as he actually is. When they look at Brook Lopez, they think he's a sniper. But Joel's actually shooting better than Brook Lopez is from 3 this year. So I think it's just the surrounding talent. It was great when they had Covington. It was great when they had Redick, but they got rid of those guys for guys that just don't fit at all. If they can get more of those spot guys, I think Shea could work. If Matisse's shot develops, it's probably going to be hard to make trades because they've gotten rid of all their assets.
Yeah.
But
what do you think about Tatum? What do you think he can be in the future?
Tatum, that's where I struggle. I do think he's going to be very good. I think he's an elite player, but I just don't see how he could be much better than maybe like a Paul George without the defense as much.
I think
Like
the
a
defense is
better
there,
version of
but
Paul. No, I think the defense is there, but wing defenders out there, and he's one of
yeah.
the best I've seen. So I just don't think he can ever get there. Guys don't improve on defense quite as often as they improve on offense. So I think with Tatum, I think he can still be an elite player and everything. I just think Simmons has that franchise potential. Whether he reaches it, who knows? I don't even know if he needs the shot. They just need the other pieces to be different, and then maybe some other skills he develops, maybe increase the free throw shooting at least. But for Tatum, I think he could be. I think he will be an elite guy. I just don't know how much better he could be because his shooting can't get much better unless he somehow turns into Steph Curry at 6'8". But I don't know.
Zach, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think both guys can be?
Ben Simmons. I think if they get the right people around, especially spot-up shooters, if you surround them with people that like Giannis or LeBron have, where they can just drive to the lane, or they can get the ball in the paint and then kick out the shooters, that'll help them a ton, especially with spacing. With Tatum, I kind of agree. I think he could average more points per game, maybe 27, 28. He's averaging, 24? Yeah, 24,
24.
this year. So I think maybe if he adds a few more points per game, his handle's gotten a lot better just based off last year. I don't know, maybe if he has a kind of problems with reads, and like when he gets into the paint, he'll make mistakes, he'll lose the ball a few times. So if he gets more comfortable just like reading defenses, that'll open up the floor a lot for him.
Personally, I think Tatum has room to grow in terms of driving to the hoop when he's going around the rim, like increasing his percentages there. I think he could be like an elite player for Boston for years to come. I also agree that I think that he could average 27, 28 points. Simmons, I kind of like the Giannis comparison as well, again, like minus some of the elite like size and athleticism at least right now. And if he can, like I said, if he can develop that shot like Giannis, where it's even 33% from three, it could just put him into that upper echelon of like top 10, top 5 players in the league. This is a great talk. Let's transition now. We'll be back in just a second to discuss Celtics Sixers preview and predictions, where we think both teams can go in Orlando.